Emotional content is filmed on Whadjuk Noongar land. This podcast acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of country. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. This episode contains discussions of child sexual abuse, PTSD, trauma, and other challenging life experiences that may be distressing to some listeners. Please take care when listening. For immediate support, contact Lifeline on 13 11 14. Additional resources are available on our website at emotionalcontent.com.au. Come for the stories, stay for the connection. I'm your host, Amy Jane Brand, and this is your weekly dose of emotional content. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Emotional Content. I am so excited to have you here for another episode. I wanted to just start by saying a huge thank you to all of you for your support over the last couple of weeks. The episodes have been wild. Getting that story out there finally, I didn't realize how much support I would actually receive. So it's been really healing, and it's just felt really good to finally get that off of my chest. Obviously, some people won't be very happy about it. I'm actually surprised I didn't get another legal letter, real or fake. Obviously, some other bigger things were left out. Like my mum listened to the episodes and she was like, "You definitely left some things out." I was like, "Yeah, well, I kind of had to." I also really didn't want to stoop to that girl's level or my ex's level and cause bullying on either of their ends, because that's not what, getting honest about those things happening was for me. It was really just setting the record straight and letting people know why, like you guys know why I actually went so quiet. And I think I did a good job of that. So that aside, huge thank you to all of you. I'm actually still getting through all of your DMs and messages now. So if I haven't yet, bear with me. I am making sure I get back to all of you no matter what. Obviously, releasing those episodes inspired me to bring Safe Space back. So many of you reached out to me and said that you really enjoyed Safe Space and you remembered it. So I just thought, you know what, let's bring it to the podcast, see how it goes. And a lot of you ended up writing in, which was awesome. Obviously, I can't go over everybody's submissions in one episode or we would be here for hours. So if I haven't answered yours today, I will make sure to try and answer them for future episodes like this. I could potentially keep doing some short ones on my social media as well as these episodes. So we'll just see how this one goes and then I'll work from there. But please let me know if you'd like me to do the Instagram ones on the emotional content page as well. And I would also absolutely love to hear what guests you would like to come onto the podcast next, because it's an interesting one to navigate what you guys will benefit from the most or whose story you want to hear from behind the scenes the most. So please let me know who you would like to hear and I will make sure to work on that for you guys. So if you weren't following me in 2021, you won't fully know what Safe Space is or what I was doing with it. Basically, it's a complete judgment-free zone. I don't shy away from the heavy topics, and when I was doing Safe Space, like I said in the previous episodes, I had a lot of people write some heavy stuff in. And I feel very passionately about bringing conversations to light that don't get talked about often enough. And I think talking about people's stories and opening up about their pain on an anonymous platform gives them an opportunity to share their story and let other people listening who might have gone through the same thing feel less alone. There's some more scandalous stuff, which I'll start off with. Then there's the heavier subjects, and obviously I will end on the lighter stuff. Keep in mind that nothing is off limits here or too taboo for me to be talking about. So I have given you guys some trigger warnings at the start of this episode. If you feel like this will be too heavy for you to listen to, please tune into the next episode and give this one a miss. Or if you are feeling capable, I would love you to join in on the conversation and spread some awareness around things that people go through. A reminder before starting, I am obviously not a mental health professional. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a counsellor. I don't have any medical training, but I am here to bring awareness, be a mental health advocate, and open up non-judgmental discussions to give you some support. And please don't forget there is an amazing list of resources that I personally made on the website emotionalcontent.com.au that makes it super easy for you to find specific help in the resources tab. So this first one is a wild story. The subject was put as guilty but honest. So some time ago, I was going through a terrible mental health crisis and the death of my boyfriend in a terrible accident. I was not making the right decisions at the time. I just didn't want to feel the pain. I met a married man, but I didn't know he was married at the time. He seemed like a dream come true, like a soulmate. We were so similar, we were bonded on so many levels. We matched so well. With our energy, personality, and sexual chemistry, it was fire. For months, he told me he was a single dad. He had divorced his wife for being violent and abusive. I believed this entirely because why would somebody lie about it? Until I found out the truth. They were very much still married and together. I figured this out because his phone kept popping up with texts. Not from his wife, but another woman he was cheating on me with. When I confronted him about cheating on me, he basically fell apart and admitted he was cheating, not only on his wife and myself, but with this other chick as well. I tried to end it so many times, but he kept manipulating me into staying. Every time I would say, we need to end this, we both need to do better, he would say, you are the only one who understands me, you are my soulmate. I've never felt this way. The universe destined us to be together. All that bullshit that liars say, but at the time, I believed it. He used the death of my boyfriend. I came to you at the right time. I was meant to help you heal from him, just like you were my angel sent to save me from my bad marriage and my terrible wife. Holy fuck. In the end, I woke up to the fact I was being manipulated by a narcissist. I warned him several times to leave me alone, or I would tell his wife everything. He kept not respecting my wishes to be left alone. So, in the end, I told his wife. I wasn't sure if she really was the evil bitch he made her out to be, so I didn't go to her sooner. I also felt bad for him cheating, or if she actually was a good person, but just manipulated by him too. I thought it was a 50-50 chance that she would believe me, and a 50-50 chance that she would tell me to fuck off. Turns out his wife believed me. She saw all the texts between us, all the evidence of us being intimate, shall we say, if you know what I mean. Instead of blowing up at me like you'd expect, we ended up bonding over the ordeal and decided to do some digging together. Turns out I was not the only one. The other chick he was cheating on me with was also not the only one. There were many women involved. When he said he was at work, he was usually gambling or spending money, his wife's money, on OnlyFans, porn, sex workers, or other women. When he said he was at home with his kids, his wife was actually the one at home with the kids. He was with me only a couple of nights per week, but the rest of the week he was with other women, not his wife. And all the money he spent on me for gifts, other women, dinners, hotels, gambling and porn was all his wife's money. He was broke. She was the one working all day and taking care of the kids all night, supporting him, while he spent all his time and her money cheating. I cannot help but feel awful. I never knew I would expose this whole secret life. But how did this man think he could actually get away with this? Moral of the story is, if someone is too good to be true, they are. Trust your gut instinct. And if you tell a man 1,000,000 times to fuck off or you will expose him and he calls your bluff, please expose him. It's exactly what he deserves. I just wish I didn't have my own guilt to go along with it. Wow. When I saw this submission come in, it was actually one of the first. I was like, okay, wow, we're here. Safe space is back. We're back, baby. Firstly, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. It's wild to me how many times I keep hearing stories like this, whether it's friends of friends. I just hear so much infidelity going on these days. And I think dating in this day and age is so much more difficult than it used to be. Secondly, I am so sorry for the loss of your previous partner, your boyfriend. That would be excruciating pain to go through. And I really hope that you're getting the support that you need to heal from that, not from this absolute dickhead that you got involved with. You were obviously really vulnerable at the time, like you said. So please don't feel guilty. This absolutely was not on you. The wife, yourself, and all the other girls involved in this were the victims, and he absolutely is a complete manipulator. And it sounds like he's not only a sex addict, but also addicted to gambling, which is it's a slippery slope with all of that. So I really hope that the wife has gotten away from him now. You obviously have, and you should be proud of yourself for sticking to your guns and exposing him. It's obvious that you weren't in the wrong, especially when the wife had your back and believed you as well, because women know she would have picked up on something, and she was in an exceptionally vulnerable position with the children to look after as well. And I think it makes it so much harder to leave. But if she was considering leaving or picking up on something, you just gave her the ammunition and the proof that she needed to leave for herself and for her children. So you absolutely did the right thing. Everybody involved was manipulated by this man, so you can't blame yourself, and you absolutely don't need to be living in guilt. I think it's just, we all learn lessons, we're all living life, and there's just a lot of takeaways from it for you, so you'll know what to look out for better in the future. As I said before, this man completely manipulated you. He also used your grief against you, which is really fucked up. And it just goes to show how narcissistic this person is. I'm going to say narcissist. I don't like throwing that word around too much, even though people in my life have been narcissists. I do feel like it gets thrown around a little bit too often. But in this instance, he 110% is a narcissist, and there's really no questioning that. Also, keep in mind that men like this rely on silence. The silence is what keeps their manipulations alive. So you breaking that silence has completely shattered the amount of manipulation he'll be able to do to any other women in the future. He'll get a horrible name for himself. It would be very difficult for him to continue that behaviour. And like I said, you've given his wife the proof and ammunition that she needs. I said in a previous episode talking about my breakup that an old best friend of mine didn't give me the proof, the ammunition, the cold hard evidence of him being basically a dog, a piece of shit behind my back. And if she had, it would have been so different. So you doing that is something that you should be proud of, because not everybody has the balls to be honest, and you owned your part that you played in it, even though you were manipulated and wouldn't have gotten into that otherwise. You had the balls to do the right thing, and a lot of people don't always have the balls to, I guess, be honest and do what's right. One of the biggest things I took away from this story was the fact that you and the wife teamed up, because it was never you versus her. It was always about him. And I just think there's something really beautiful about you two coming together and having each other's backs and figuring out what was really going on instead of going against each other. I think society often pits women against each other, and the men get away with a lot of shit compared to what it would be like if we came together and had each other's backs. So I think that that was like a part of the story that really stood out for me. And I'm so happy that you two were able to come together and get the clarity that you both so much needed. I really hope that with time, or even after listening to this, that you will let go of the guilt. Obviously, feeling guilty is natural, but please don't hold on to that. Instead, just take it as a lesson. Always trust your gut instinct, like you said. Never ignore those red flags, and don't let a man manipulate you with your own pain by using it against you. That is something that I think a lot of us have fallen victim to, but now you'll know better and you'll be able to pick up on it and see it for what it is. I hope you know that you freed yourself, his wife, and possibly so many other women, even involved in this situation and in the future, from his manipulation cycles. And I think that's something that you should actually be so proud of. I'm sending you a lot of love, and thank you so much for sending in this submission. Okay, this next one is really interesting, and I actually learned a lot from this too. I had never heard of it before, but I did my research. And this person has also sent their name in with their location, which I do get you guys to do in the submission forms, but just in case, because this is new, I'm going to slightly alter the names a little bit in case you guys thought that the name that was being sent in was just for me. So we've got Kelly from Victoria, and this is called Dating a Phrasexual. Kelly wrote in, "My partner and I have been together for 4 years and have a beautiful baby. When we first got together, our sex life was wild and fun, but early on my partner said he doesn't always feel like this, and the more he gets to know someone, he doesn't feel as attracted. I didn't think much of it, and slowly over the years we stopped having sex altogether due to him not feeling comfortable. This took a massive toll on my mental health and confidence, and after many arguments and discussions, he agreed to see a therapist, as I thought it might be something triggered by his upbringing. This helped for a bit, and he was putting more effort in with monthly scheduling to more so mentally prepare for having sex. It helped enough for us to fall pregnant, but we haven't had sex since. I love this man, and he is my absolute forever person. I did some research and discovered phrase sexuality, which he agreed fits the situation to a T. My question, though, is where do I go from here? I am someone that needs to be desired in order to feel secure in a relationship. We couldn't be more opposite sexually, but we love and adore one another and don't want to break apart. He seems okay with where we are now, but I feel like I'm a lesser version of myself because I'm not expressing how I feel in the ways that I want to. Any advice is welcome. I love this pod and I have been a fan for many years." Firstly, thank you so much for following me, even over the years that I was super quiet. So I appreciate that and love you so much. Now, firstly, I had to do a little bit of research on what phrase sexuality was, and it was actually really interesting to educate myself on it. So I'm going to give you a description of what it is. Phrase sexuality is a term under the asexual spectrum that describes someone who only experiences sexual attraction to people they are not emotionally connected to. Once an emotional bond is formed, their sexual attraction fades or disappears. It is considered the opposite of demisexuality, where sexual attraction develops after an emotional connection is established. Phrase sexuality falls under the broader category of grey sexuality or grey ace, which includes people who experience sexual attraction infrequently or under specific conditions. So firstly, with this, I want to validate both perspectives because you absolutely are entitled to feel how you're feeling. And I think so many people, not just women, will be able to relate to you when it comes to feeling validation and wanted to be desired through sex. It does play a really important role in a relationship. And I think it takes really open conversation and discussion to navigate through this one. Like, it is quite a difficult one. And I can imagine that this would be tough for you to discuss with your close circle of people. So I feel quite honoured that you've come to me for some advice on it. Obviously, I'm not a professional, but I kind of just looked at this as to how I would personally navigate it. There's no shame or guilt on you wanting to be desired. I think our desire as women as a whole is often suppressed by society, and then to have it suppressed even further within your relationship would take a serious toll on your mental health. So you are absolutely valid in feeling your feelings. As for your partner, it seems like he definitely identifies as phrasexual after you gave him the description of it and he felt like that was him to a T. Obviously, there's no shame in him feeling that way either, and I'm sure that a part of him wishes that it was different and he didn't have to put you through this. It sounds like you guys are, really compatible in every other sense, and you said he's your forever person. So I'm hoping that to navigate this, maybe he would consider going back to therapy now that he is feeling like he identifies with phrase sexuality. Is this something that he could potentially compromise on, such as scheduling sex? I know a lot of people get really scared when sex starts getting scheduled in, but I follow a lot of different sex educators and sexologists, and scheduling sex in really isn't as scary as it sounds. It's actually quite good. If you just leave that elephant in the room, it's going to cause resentment. I think there's a common misconception that sex is always going to stay alive just because you love each other. And unfortunately, that's not the case. A lot of effort has to be made in order to keep the sexual connection alive. Obviously, in the honeymoon period, everything is fire. There's a lot of elevated hormones. You just want to fuck each other's brains out, basically. But it's not like that long term. You do have to put a lot of effort into it. And a recent study has just said that our generation of people, young people, even Gen Zs, are having less sex than any other generation. So please don't be too hard on yourself for having to navigate through the difficulties of this. One thing I think a lot of women listening to this will be able to resonate with is you feeling like his attraction to you is fading. And it would be very difficult to navigate that on a personal level and not feel unwanted or unattractive or start really blaming yourself. And I really hope that you're not doing that, because if he's identifying with this is his baseline and this is how his brain works, and it's got nothing to do with you. It's got nothing to do with you being less attractive. It is something that he obviously would have this issue with anybody. So please do not start comparing yourself. We can all fall into that hole. I have been there, and I really don't want you feeling like that, especially because he has openly identified with this. If this was me, I would probably start looking at alternatives and exploring different types of intimacy that would fill up your cup and be comfortable for him as well, such as more physical touch, cuddling, kissing, non-sexual kind of affection, intentional romance as well. So going on dates, love notes, affirmations, saying nice things to each other that really help keep that bond with each other and give you reassurance too. I would also try and schedule more intimacy. I know that was for the purpose of having a baby, but like, would once a month be something that would work for you? Would that work for him? If you schedule it, try and take away from sex always needing to be spontaneous, like I said before, because sexual intimacy long-term in a relationship is not always going to be spontaneous. I don't care who the fuck it is, it's not going to be spontaneous, okay? It might happen here and there, but you're not always going to have. I just wouldn't believe anybody. If you're deep into a relationship years down the line and you're still having sex the same way you did in a honeymoon period, you are lying. Scientifically, you are lying, okay? The people that are having really regular sex years and years later on in relationships are actively working on it and making it happen. It is not like this spontaneous hormones flying around. Like, life gets in the way. You now have a baby together. Like, you do need to schedule things in. So I think potentially going back to scheduling, so it's still a compromise for you as well. And I think potentially I would try couples therapy as well, or him going back to that therapist if that person was good for him to go to, and really focusing on navigating this issue for you both. If he could have extra support in how he identifies, that could really help things as well. And if you decide to do couples therapy for it, that would really help you work through this as well. Lastly, I do hate saying this because I know it's really scary, but I think if things don't change or there's no compromise, it's time to have some really honest conversations with yourself and each other, and really ask yourself if you would be able to carry on with the way it is with absolutely no sex for years to come. How is that going to impact your mental health? How is that going to make you feel long term? And is that going to be something that you're willing to do? For me personally, I think having absolutely no compromise on that would not work. Love sometimes just isn't enough on its own, and you have to make some pretty difficult decisions. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we only get one life. I don't know if you would be interested in ethical non-monogamy, where you're both able to sleep with other people. It's not something I would personally be able to do. I think I would be far too jealous of that. But some people are capable of it. And if it keeps you guys together and you're still getting satisfied in those areas, then maybe that's something that could work for you both as well. But whatever way you go about it, I am sending you so much love. I can imagine this would be really difficult to navigate, and I know that you would not be alone in this. There would be a lot of people listening to this right now that can relate to you and resonate with your story and your current situation. But I know that you'll be able to get through this, and I just hope that in the end you make sure that you choose yourself, because at the end of the day, the relationship that we have with ourselves is the most important. So this next one is from a guy called Miles. Thank you so much for writing in, Miles. This one was titled as Not as Happy as I Appear. My friends and family are constantly asking me how I stay so positive and happy. The truth is, I am so fucking lonely. For most of my life, I never felt like I could be good enough for anyone, and that's remained true throughout my early childhood. Every relationship I've seen since I was younger has always broken down in either betrayal, lies, or just heartache, and it's made me really turn a blind eye to love or whether it actually exists. Especially since I'm gay, I feel like the hookup culture has ruined any chance of actually finding someone genuine these days. It's a rough topic to speak about without coming across like a sad loser, but man, I just want someone to love me. That last line, when I read that, made me cry because I think so many people are going to relate to this one. Like, I read it and just thought of so many friends of mine that have said the same thing. I obviously have a lot of gay friends, and the hookup culture, so many are just kind of hooking up with each other and not really prepared to settle down. I feel like this is such a raw and honest message. And even if you're not gay, hookup culture has completely changed society. And I think, you know, with all the movies, social media, the way things are pushed, there's like so much cheating and scandalous stuff going on. And I feel like it's really broken up society's view of having a strong foundation. Some of the dating apps, I feel like they really encourage that hookup culture as well. You know, they say that they don't, but there's some that definitely do. I only know what I've been told about Grindr, but that definitely seems like hookup culture, like 101. I don't know if people are finding true love on apps like that. So it would make it really hard to navigate. And coming from somebody that has had their heart broken multiple times, when I broke up with my last boyfriend, I really had at that point quite a angry view on men as a whole. And I actually healed a lot with that in the current relationship I'm in now. So I feel like relationships can also be really healing and not as scary as they seem. I guess we're all trying to protect ourselves from getting hurt, but I think there's also a lot of power in learning to wear your heart on your sleeve and seeing where that takes you. You sound like a really emotionally intelligent person, and you sound like somebody that leads with positivity. And obviously people, you know, love being around you because of that happy aura that you hold. I do think from what you've written, it would be really great for you to potentially open up to your loved ones or anyone that you trust about how you're really feeling, and maybe let them in to support you, because you don't have to be the positive one all the time. And there is such thing as toxic positivity. From what you're saying, it feels like you could really give yourself a break and let that positivity guard down and just be in your feelings and how you want to feel. Faking it around people that love you, I don't think will be necessary. And it might give you a chance to just really feel those feelings. You are absolutely not alone in how you're feeling with this, by the way. I mean, I know so many people who work on social media, and like myself, I pretended to be so happy, like I was living the dream online. And now you guys know that that was not the case. It's been a really freeing experience getting honest with that fact and opening up to people and showing people that half the time social media is a big bunch of bullshit. And there's so many people I know in this industry that aren't happy. So you're absolutely not alone in feeling that loneliness. I don't know where you've been kind of hanging out or what you're doing, but if this was me, I guess I would consider maybe trying to put myself in new spaces to find the type of person that you're after outside of that hookup culture. So I don't know if that sounds lame to you, but if you're going out to clubs or on dating apps, they might not be the right spaces to find somebody. So even like volunteering or community events, I'm not too sure where you're based. If I knew where you were based, I might have actually tried to have a look for you to suggest something specific, but maybe the right person will pop up there. I guess it's just really being open to it. I suggest this to everybody because my view is anyone that's experienced a childhood could benefit from some kind of therapy, but that's just me. I don't know if looking into some therapy might help you, just working through those old wounds and how you're feeling about love in general because of what you've witnessed over time. That might help you open up to finding a person if that's what you really want. I love therapy and I'm a big advocate for that. Obviously, it can be pretty hard finding the right therapist. So it's really a personal choice if that's something that you want to do. But I do feel like that might potentially help in some way. It sounds like you have your guard up a lot at the moment, which is absolutely fine. You are protecting yourself and you are absolutely allowed to do that. I want you to know it is okay to be craving the love that you're craving. I have been in a lot of relationships. I've been in more relationships than I have been single. I don't advise that because I've been hurt multiple times. So there's pros and cons to both, 100%. Obviously, don't let that loneliness push you into relationships that don't honor your self-worth. I don't think you're willing to do that. I think you're staying very closed off, but that is something that I think is worth mentioning to anyone listening as well. Jumping into something just because you want to be loved. I have done that, especially when I was love bombed and I was completely unaware of it. That's just going to lead you to more heartache in the long term. So I think being open to it and shifting the focus to loving yourself right now and working on yourself is probably the best answer. And then, you'll be open enough eventually for the right person to walk in. And they won't require you to question whether love is real or not. Another thing I want to mention for people listening is please don't think that you need to be 100% healed in order to find someone, because you often find so much healing within relationship as well. This is my personal opinion, and there's a few sexologists that I follow that are the same, that brought up this perspective to me, and I really resonated with it because I was a complete mess when I met my partner who I'm with now. And there has been so much healing, and I am such a different person since when we first got together. It is like a night and day contrast, because once you feel safety in relationship, you often fall into being vulnerable and open, and then you get to work on yourself because there's that safety and support. That's another perspective. You might not 100% agree with it, but I do think that there can be healing within relationship, and you don't have to be 100% healed in order to find a love that's good for you. Miles, I'm sending you so much love, and please know that feeling lonely does not make you weak, and admitting it is really brave. I hope what I've said can help. And honestly, you sound like a really beautiful person and you absolutely deserve love. I just want that love to be on your level, and I really don't want you to settle. So thank you again for writing in. And if you feel like it, please update me with how you go. I can totally envision you with somebody that absolutely deserves to be loved by you. Okay, guys, so this next one is a heavy story. It is one that involves sexual assault of a minor. So if this is something that is a trigger for you, please switch it off, and I will see you in the next episode. Protecting your mental health is super important, but if you are willing to listen, this woman's story is really powerful, and I think that it could help so many of you, and I feel extremely honoured to be the one to share her story, and having her trust me with this is something that I don't take lightly. This is Navigating Sexual Assault and sharing her story from Steph in Brisbane. I started therapy about 3 years ago for the first time in my life. At the time, I was on the brink of a breakdown. I was being bullied by my boss at work, and I was about to get married. There was a lot going on, extreme highs and extreme lows. When my mental health was on the verge of completely snapping, I started having these fucked up dreams about my childhood. Strangely, they began affecting my relationship with my now husband. For example, if he came up behind me and hugged me, it would trigger me so badly that I'd snap at him. Certain kisses would set me off too, and sometimes even a simple hug would make me push him away. I kept blaming the stress at work and the wedding preparations, but deep down, I was scared as fuck to be feeling this way towards him, especially when I was about to walk down the aisle for him. I started therapy because I felt like I was losing my mind. On the outside, it seemed like I was struggling with work-related stress. But a couple of months in, out of nowhere, I remembered I had actually been abused by my older male cousin over multiple times before I was the age of 10 years old. And I had never told a soul. I was 31 years old then. You might think she just remembered. Well, I had always known, of course. But for over more than a decade, I buried those memories so deep in my brain that I completely forgot about them. It was the only way I could survive, to have a normal childhood and build healthy relationships. To keep this as short as possible, I told my partner about it for the first time in my life, and saying those words out loud shattered me. I took it to therapy. I spent days sobbing in the bathroom, screaming into my pillow as everything I had suppressed over 20 years exploded all at once. It took me 6 months to at least feel like I was being myself again since opening up about it. I don't have the heart to tell my sisters or my parents. I don't want to put that weight on them. I'm a mother now, and even I don't know if I would be equipped to cope with something like this if my child told me, let alone my parents, who don't have as much emotional intelligence as I do. To make things even more painful, I moved overseas from South Africa to Australia over a decade ago, and I know my abuser, my cousin, is still close to my family and my dad back home. One day, I was talking to my stepbrother from my dad's side about the things that we felt growing up. Through tears, I finally admitted that I had been molested by our cousin, who, by the way, was over 18 when it happened. We cried together, and my brother confessed that he knew another female cousin that had also been molested by him. He had found out, but not much was believed or done about it at the time. And that's my story, healing a deep trauma after carrying it for 25 years. I quit that horrible job where I was being bullied, and even though I had to take a pay cut, I'm happy now. I'm happily married to a supportive husband, I have a beautiful son, and my mission in life is to raise him to be better than this. I wish I could raise more awareness. I wish I could tell the world, but I don't know if I'm ready or if I ever will be, as long as my parents are alive. I wish I could end this with some beautiful message, but real life isn't pretty. All I know is this. We are like water dams. If we don't release some water every now and then, we will explode at some point in our lives. You are not alone. Don't leave your kids at unsupervised sleepovers, even with family around. And please, if you need to, go to therapy. When this submission was sent in and reading this story, it immediately put me into tears because I have people who I love so much that have also been victims of this. And I feel like people shy away from this type of conversation. And there are so many people that go through this and they feel so alone and tarnished by this experience. I want to start off by saying how brave you are. And it is an absolute honour to tell your story for you. This will help so many people, more than you know. There's so many people that have been through this type of abuse and it is not talked about enough. But by sharing your story and raising your son the right way, you're already doing so much. You don't have to go public and tell the world, put your name on it for it to help people. It can be done like this. And like I said, teaching your son to be a good person is already making a change in this world. At the beginning of your story, you spoke of the repressed memories of what had happened with your trauma. And I really resonate with that because not that I had been through the same as yourself, but with my own traumas, my brain has completely blocked out different times in my life as a child. And even I feel like I've lost some years from it because it's the way of, as you would already know, our brains protecting us because our brains are always trying to protect us. And I can't imagine how difficult it would have been coming back to that realization after 25 years of it being stored away. And it takes immense courage to tackle that head on, going to therapy, working through it, opening up to your husband. There is so many layers of growth in this that you have gone through, and you should be so proud of yourself that you are now working through your trauma. And it sounds like you are starting to be in a much better place. And that's all of your hard work. That is all you that has got you to that place. And I'm so happy that you have a really supportive husband. And once you felt that safety with your therapist, it sounds like your brain finally opened up to what it had been storing away. So I'm really thankful that you found a good therapist. I'm super happy that you have a supportive husband, because healing through this type of trauma does require good people in your life to help you through it. And it sounds like you have that. I think one thing I would love to say to you is protecting your peace should always come first. When it comes to telling your parents or feeling like you need to, that's such a personal decision, and you absolutely don't have to do that if you don't want to. If telling your family will cause more harm and you don't feel equipped to be dealing with that on top of what you're already working through, then you don't have to tell them. I know a lot of people that have felt the exact same way as you and they haven't. So I hope no one ever makes you feel like you need to say something, because it's all about what makes you feel best in this situation and lesser about anybody else. I think your message is really powerful, and it just goes to show that healing isn't linear, but it absolutely is possible. And the takeaways that you have said from that as well, about not suppressing your pain and letting that water out of the dam, or you will end up exploding, is so important. I also couldn't agree more with you when it comes to leaving your children unsupervised at sleepovers. When I was doing Safe Space back in 2021, I was shocked at how many people wrote in saying that their babysitters that their parents had entrusted with their children were also doing the same thing. When I was younger, I actually remember a time when I went to a sleepover at a friend's house, and the older brother actually tried to sexually assault me, and I never had another sleepover with anybody again after that. So that was a very close call when I was younger, and I can imagine that that type of thing is absolutely still happening, if not more. So on that note, please know that by sharing your story today, you are helping so many people. You are breaking that cycle by raising your son right, and you are already doing so much. I am so incredibly proud of you, and I don't even know you. Thank you for entrusting me with your story. It is a powerful one, and you should be so proud of yourself. I am sending you so, so much love. So the last one that I'll be reading out today is from Mary in New Zealand. I've been with my boyfriend for nearly 2 years, and we've only had sex maybe twice. He can't seem to stay hard when he tries to put it in. From the start of the talking stage, he was always frisky, sending videos and nudes, etc. And it was always, I can't wait to get my hands on you. I'm starting to think it's me. Or maybe he's watching too much porn and I'm not living up to his expectations. We do everything else sexually, but just not penetration. Everything else in the relationship is great. We really are the best of friends, but the aspect of no sex is starting to affect me, and I'm not sure how to bring it up in conversation. Any advice? Thanks, girl. Been loving the podcast. Firstly, thank you so much for supporting the podcast. It really means the world to me. I think this situation is something that can come up for a lot of people. Like I said before about people not having as much sex as they used to, I think there's going to be a lot of people that write this same problem in different ways. It's really easy to blame performance issues on ourselves, and I think a lot of women feel insecure because of this, but it is actually rarely about attraction and often more to do with psychological or physical issues. Like you said before, porn could be a factor. People do get really addicted to porn and they get very desensitized to it. So if you're aware that he's watching a lot of it, this is something that could be affecting things. I think if you do have a conversation around this, it's good to make it a very judgment-free zone, really make it a safe environment for you both to speak openly and honestly. There's actually a lot of reasons why this could be happening. If there has been performance issues previously, he could really be in his head about it and have a lot of anxiety. It's obvious that you guys don't have a problem when it comes to like attraction, even though you might be feeling that way. And there's a lot of people that can't actually have penetration and do have their sexual intimacy by what you're doing for various reasons. So it's good that you're still having that intimacy, but I guess it's having really open and honest conversations about how you can work on getting that penetration back again. It's obviously important for you, and it could be something that's becoming like a big elephant in the room. So like I said before, trying to have that really honest and open conversation, just make it really safe and just be really, any form of judgment or blame or making a joke of it could cause a lot of damage. Putting yourself in his shoes, if it is like a performance issue and he's anxious about it, and then there's like any jokes made, or you get a bit nasty about it because you're feeling insecure, it could make the problem a lot worse. As I have said to the others, therapy could also be an option. I think in this instance, potential couples therapy would be a really good idea, or if he wants to go by himself. Either way, I think therapy is great for everybody. And if you guys exhaust your options trying the open conversation and different things at home, then it's definitely an option for you guys, because it sounds like the foundations of what you have is really good. Sometimes it just takes another person to come in and mediate and just give you some other options to try. Physical intimacy is really important in any relationship, and you're totally valid in how you're feeling. I know bringing it up might feel really awkward, but it won't make the problem go away. So I think if you want to work through it, both of you do, then there is solutions out there, and just coming in with that softness and being really empathetic is probably the best way to start. I'm sending you a lot of love. I know these kind of conversations can be really scary, but it's the difficult conversations that will actually bond you two closer together. Okay, I'm going to leave this episode of Safe Space at that. I am so thankful for everybody that wrote in, and please know that I am going to answer your submissions in future episodes as well. I really hope this gives other people listening the courage to write in too, and now you can see what these episodes are about. Thank you so much to everyone who wrote in. Thank you to everybody listening. I am so excited. After 3 whole fucking years, I get to bring this back in a whole new way, and I'm looking forward to doing so many more in the future. I'm sending you all so much love. Please remember you are not alone. And again, there are resources available on my website at emotionalcontent.com.au. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next episode. Mwah. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please give it a share. You never know who might need a little emotional content in their life. For daily feel-good posts, follow @_emotional content on Instagram and TikTok. And don't forget to hit that follow button so you're notified every time a new episode drops. Your support means the absolute world to me.